Welcome back to another Unlocked series. This week we're going to be talking about transitions, using terrain, and trying to get in the bubble on a property that's not got a lot of crops, but we're bottlenecking deer with terrain features and trying to have success.
Yeah, that is the absolute foundation for a really good habitat management strategy and a hunt strategy. We have to understand how deer are using the landscape, what the limitations are, where they want to frequent before you really can understand where do I even need to be at.
This is a lease,
right?
But guys on public ground can be utilizing these techniques and looking for these habitat features and terrain features to really have success. So this is really for everyone, especially for the guys that have lots of terrain. So
right, and to kick this one off, as we go into the Onyx map and understand the time frame of the hunt itself was November 14th. So we're peak rut. Mm-hmm. We're in the chase phase, the seeking phase, and beginning to get into that lockdown for Missouri. So we had sat back and really hunted this property outside to in. We had some good encounters. We watched a lot of deer, and through the reveal cameras knew, okay, this particular crossing from a big block of timber to the north and then one to the south, this is the main funnel that they're taking. We can see it through topography, but we can also see it through the vegetation, and you'll see it on the drone, that's the thickest spot as well. There's two hayfields on east and west of this main funnel, and that's the main thoroughfare from one big block of timber to the south big block of timber.
What I was more impressed about is if we can use the Onyx map, your entry and exit is not ideal.
No, it's not.
But you read the map, you read the terrain, which then you did your scouting, which then landed you on the X, where this tree is. And I would love to see it on the map, because when you look at where you're getting to and from, I cringed when you showed it to me.
I didn't want to do it.
You don't do this move that you did to be successful September 15th, October 1st. You wait until, okay, now it's the rut, and now we're kind of going all in. We put all our chips in the pile. We
push the envelope a little bit farther. And so, we had hunted, when you look at this set up here, the left or the west icon, we hunted that with a southeast wind, blew it across into an open hayfield, and we're just 100 yards off of basically a parking spot, right? A driveway, your main access in and out. Super easy, blown across the pasture, no problem. But the key thing that we were missing is the way that the topography works, and as we get farther into the rut, we started having early season a lot of east winds, and then we got some shifts. And this farm, because the main access is on the western side of the farm, we didn't have a lot of setups in year one that were good west winds. And so we knew, hey, this was going to be a challenge to get across basically that big thoroughfare, that drainage, that transition from one block of timber to the next. It was going to be difficult, and if we were going to do it, it had to be under these certain conditions. And the week prior to even hunting this, had asked Tucker when we were going and seeding rye over one of the pastures, was, hey, there's going to be a pinch right in that block of timber because we got this bluff to our south, and the way this field edges and the old field or the early successional growth coming up in that drainage was growing. It's like, there's going to be a pinch. Go mark a tree so when we do, if given the opportunity, come in here in the dark, we're not searching, we're not hunting, go flag that tree. And gosh, it was probably 5 to 6 days later, the night before, it's like, we got the conditions. And the camera that's sitting on the south end of this transition, it's a fence crossing, but we couldn't, that was way too aggressive to get that deep into it. We still need to be on the fringe. But it's like, I think it's time we need to go to where we flagged out that red oak. And so made the decision 2 days before gun season, let's get in there. We've got several deer that are using this transition back and forth, but we can see a long ways. We're at least going to learn, right? During the rut, we can see where a buck's crossing. Let's observe more than what the camera's telling us, essentially.
I think when you look at this, where the field serves as a hindrance for crossing, they're going to use the woods. You've done old field management, and it's not getting cut for hay, so it's tall. But the big thing is when you're sitting in the stand, you're blowing your wind off the bluff.
Absolutely.
So deer cannot get downwind of you, and even if they did,
they are
lower, so the scent's blown right out of the top of them, and that's so crucial. I mean, you guys are even in southern Iowa where it's relatively flat, you still have some terrain features, but same thing where you have to think about where your wind's going. And when you're in terrain country, it's like sometimes you have to do a little bit of navigating, more navigation,
fine maneuvering,
just to make sure that your scent going in and out and while you're hunting is avoiding deer noses.
We knew that we were vulnerable going in with the wind, but once we got 18, 20 foot up in the tree and with the winds we were going to have that day, if deer were coming along the bluff edge, the scent was way above them. And so because we had that elevation drop and the steepness of it, we didn't really experience a lot of deer down there anyways. We were vulnerable going in, but it was a calculated risk of, I think once we're set, let's get in early. Once we're set, it will work. And so the morning started great. We had a lot of deer moving through across that transition. And then late in the morning, Tucker caught a glimpse of a rack buck coming through that old field, right in the transition, right up the gut of this thing, right through the center. He was 100, 120 yards away, made a grunt, and he full committed. But what is also important from this location, we've covered it in other unlocked series, is in calling whitetail, we had that bluff. And if you look on the GoPro footage, you can see me, the first grunt I make, I throw over my shoulder to kind of throw the sound off as if it's farther away. And the way that deer reacted, when he comes in, he runs all the way to the tree essentially, thinking that sound was down off that bluff. And so we're kind of using that terrain feature too from a calling situation of, hey, he's going to think this thing is farther, and he rushes in. So we're using the wind, the sound, and this topography feature all to our advantage. But we don't do this. We don't do this in October. We don't do this in September.
No.
This is the time frame to be the most aggressive, and we're going to slide in and do it now.
That's why when people ask me, like, tell me your perfect farm, and I will include terrain features, like a good amount of terrain. And I know, like, we've talked about, like, Buffalo County, Wisconsin, which is highly known for a lot of big deer. But you get up there, you're like, this is not what I expected. Yeah. This isn't Kansas. This isn't Iowa. There's some serious terrain here. Yep. And that can create wind swirling. But if you know how to navigate it and you know which terrain features to look for and how to use thermals and falling and rising.
And transitions.
It can be magical. It can help you ensure there's no deer behind me. And that's what understanding the topo is crucial.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's so important to not only just observe through the cameras, but try and, as you're learning the farm, try things. Because you can look at the map and try it under, a let's say a west wind, but really because of the terrain features, you really need a north. It doesn't seem like it on a map, but because of the way the scent does flow through it, you actually need to hunt on a different wind. So there's a learning curve to it, but luckily.
And at the same time, on X, you can use topo, but this is a plug for use it on the desktop version. So then you can look at LiDAR, which is like, sonar on a fish finder. So you can see trails, you can see ditches a lot more defined with that LiDAR. So check that out when you're using it on desktop. Go to
or do the exaggerated topo lines or exaggerated view of the topography, and you can really see how as you change the plane as you're looking across.
Oh, you're talking 3D.
Yes.
Yes.
It really blows and 2D, shows up this.
And you can use
really
that on your phone. But for sure, check that out. And then, of course, go check out the hunt on the Hunt Collective side to watch Matt have success using terrain features to his advantage.